The Keeper Novel 2026, written by Tana French. The Keeper by Tana French was first published in the United States on March 31, 2026, by Viking. It is the third and final novel in the Cal Hooper trilogy, following The Searcher and The Hunter. Penguin Random House +1. The UK edition was published on April 2, 2026, by Penguin. Penguin. Author: Tana French. Publication year: 2026. Genre: mystery, crime, psychological suspense. Length: 496 pages US hardcover. Books.google.com. Summary begins. The first thing Mara Vale noticed was that the house had no clocks. Not one. There was an empty brass hook above the fireplace where a clock had once hung. A pale rectangle marked the wall above the kitchen door. Even the little alarm clock beside the bed was missing its hands. Mara stood in the entrance hall with rainwater dripping from her coat and listened to the silence. Then someone whispered her name. Mara. She turned. Nobody was there. The house stood at the end of a narrow country road, surrounded by black trees and fields drowned beneath November rain. It had belonged to her uncle Daniel, a man she had not seen for 23 years. 3 days earlier, she had received his letter. Mara, if you are reading this, I am dead. Do not sell the house. Do not trust anyone who tells you what happened here. Most importantly, never open the room beneath the stairs. There had been no explanation. Only a key. Mara had almost thrown the letter away. Almost. Instead, she had driven 6 hours through the rain to the place she had spent years trying to forget. The house was exactly as she remembered it, and that frightened her more than anything. She had been 7 years old when her mother died. At least, that was what everyone had told her. Her mother had drowned in the lake behind the house. An accident. A terrible accident. Mara had never remembered the lake. Until tonight. She walked toward the kitchen. A door slammed upstairs. Mara froze. Hello. No answer. She reached for the phone in her pocket. No signal. Of course. The storm had taken out the electricity too. She found candles in a drawer and lit 3. Their flames trembled. On the kitchen table was a wooden box. Mara stared at it. She was certain it had not been there when she entered. She opened it. Inside lay 12 photographs. The first showed Daniel as a young man. The second showed the house. The third showed Mara. She dropped it. The photograph had been taken when she was 7. She was standing beside the lake. Her mother was beside her. But there was someone else in the photograph. A tall man in a dark coat. His face had been scratched away. Mara picked up the photograph again. On the back, in Daniel's handwriting, were 4 words. He was already there. A floorboard creaked behind her. She turned. The kitchen doorway was empty. Then she heard footsteps. Slow. Measured. Coming down the stairs. Mara backed away. The footsteps stopped. A man's voice came from the darkness. You came back. Mara's heart hammered. Who are you? Silence. Then, the keeper. The candle went out. Mara woke at dawn on the kitchen floor. The storm had passed. Sunlight entered through the windows. The electricity had returned. She sat up slowly. There was a glass of water beside her. And beside the glass was another note. You should have left before sunrise. Mara read it twice. Then she laughed. It was not because anything was funny. It was because she finally understood. Daniel had known someone might come. Someone who knew the house. Someone who knew her. She called the police. A patrol car arrived 40 minutes later. The officer introduced himself as Thomas Reed. He was perhaps 60, with silver hair and tired eyes. You're Daniel Vale's niece. Yes, I remember you. Mara stared at him. You remember me? Small girl. Red coat. Always asking questions. A cold feeling settled in her stomach. You knew my mother. Reed looked toward the lake. Yes. What happened to her? He hesitated. Your uncle told you. My uncle said she drowned. Reed's expression changed. That's what everyone said. Everyone. Mara noticed the distinction. What actually happened? Before Reed could answer, a car appeared at the end of the road. Black. It stopped. A woman stepped out. She was carrying a leather case. Reed immediately stood. You need to leave, he said. Why? That woman is Dr. Evelyn Shaw. Mara recognized the name. She had seen it in Daniel's papers. A psychiatrist. A specialist in childhood trauma. Why is she here? Reed's jaw tightened. Because your uncle spent 20 years paying her to keep a secret. Evelyn Shaw entered the house as if she owned it. She was elegant, calm, and completely dry despite the wet road. Hello, Mara. How do you know my name? I knew you before you knew yourself. Mara stared at her. What does that mean? Evelyn placed the leather case on the table. Your uncle was frightened of you. Why? Because you remembered. Remembered what? Evelyn opened the case. Inside were medical records. Hundreds of pages. Most were dated 23 years earlier. Mara saw her own name. Patient. Mara Vale. Age. 7. She turned the first page. The handwriting was Daniel's. Subject continues to insist that her mother is alive. Mara looked up. My mother was dead. Yes. Then why would I say she was alive? Evelyn didn't answer. Mara turned another page. Subject describes a man called the keeper. Her fingers became cold. Another page. Subject says the keeper lives beneath the stairs. 6. Mara looked toward the hallway. The locked door was still there. The room beneath the stairs. She suddenly remembered something. A child's voice. Her own voice. Don't open it. She stood. Evelyn grabbed her wrist. Don't. Mara pulled free. Why? Because Daniel was right. What is inside? Evelyn whispered. Evidence. The key was in Mara's pocket. She had forgotten about it. The brass key Daniel had sent with the letter. She walked toward the door. Reed stepped between her and it. Mara, move. You don't understand. I understand that everyone has been lying to me. Reed closed his eyes. Your mother did not drown. Mara stopped. The house seemed to become completely silent. What? She was murdered. Evelyn looked at Reed with fury. You promised. I promised Daniel I would protect the girl. I am not a girl. No. Reed said quietly. You're the woman who came back. Mara put the key into the lock. Reed grabbed her shoulder. Don't. She opened the door. The smell came first. Damp earth, old wood, and something metallic. The room was tiny. There were shelves along every wall. Boxes, photographs, tape recordings, newspapers. At the center stood an old chair. Behind it was a wall covered in children's drawings. Mara stepped closer. Every drawing showed the same thing. A house, a lake, a woman, and a tall figure standing behind them. The keeper. Then she saw the last drawing. It was different. It showed a little girl standing beside the lake. Beside her stood her mother. And behind them stood Daniel. Not the keeper. Daniel. Mara's breathing stopped. On the bottom of the drawing, written in childish handwriting. Uncle Daniel said nobody would believe me. Evelyn finally told the truth. Daniel had not been Mara's protector. He had been her mother's brother. He had been obsessed with proving that Mara's mother, Anna, was mentally unstable. Anna had discovered that Daniel was stealing money from the family estate. She threatened to expose him. Daniel created a story. He convinced everyone Anna was depressed. Then came the night at the lake. Anna confronted Daniel. Mara witnessed it. Daniel pushed Anna into the water. But Mara saw everything. She screamed. Daniel carried her home. Then he began telling her that what she had seen was not real. For months, he repeated the same words. Your mother drowned. You were asleep. You imagined the rest. Evelyn had been hired to treat Mara. But she discovered something Daniel had not expected. Children can forget, but they can also hide memories. And Mara had hidden hers inside stories. Every drawing, every nightmare, every imaginary character. The keeper. He was Daniel. Mara stared at Evelyn. Why didn't you expose him? Because I was afraid. Of Daniel. Yes. Then why did he keep me alive? Evelyn looked toward the photographs. Because you were the only person who knew. Mara understood. Daniel had spent 23 years controlling the evidence. He had paid Evelyn to maintain silence. He had threatened Reed. And he had convinced himself that time would erase the truth. But it hadn't. Daniel had grown old. And near the end of his life, guilt had finally defeated him. That was why he had written the letter. Not to protect Mara. To confess without having to speak. Mara found the final tape. A small cassette recorder sat on a shelf. She pressed play. Static. Then Daniel's voice. Older. Weak. If you're hearing this, Mara, I'm gone. Mara closed her eyes. I don't expect forgiveness. A pause. I told myself I protected you. Another pause. But I was protecting myself. The recording continued. I killed Anna. Mara's eyes filled with tears. I pushed her into the lake. Evelyn turned away. Reed stared at the floor. Daniel continued. You saw me. The tape crackled. I spent 23 years trying to make you doubt yourself. Mara whispered. Why? The recording answered. Because the truth frightened me. Then came something unexpected. Daniel laughed softly. I thought I was the keeper of the secret. His voice became almost a whisper. But secrets keep their own prisoners. The tape ended. That evening, police divers searched the lake. They found Anna's wedding ring. Then they found bones beneath the old dock. The case was reopened. Daniel was dead, but the evidence in the room beneath the stairs was enough. Mara stayed at the house for 3 nights. On the 4th morning, she packed her bags. Before leaving, she walked into the empty room. She removed the children's drawings from the wall. All except one. The last one. The drawing of herself beside her mother. She folded it carefully and placed it inside her suitcase. Then she noticed something she had never seen before. A tiny figure in the corner. Another child, standing beneath a tree. Mara stared. She remembered. There had been another child at the lake. A boy. Daniel's son. Her cousin. He had been 8 years old. And he had seen everything too. Mara suddenly understood why Daniel had been so desperate. There had not been one witness. There had been 2. She searched through the boxes. A newspaper clipping fell out. Local boy missing after family tragedy. The article was 23 years old. The boy's name was Samuel Vale. Daniel had told everyone Samuel ran away. But Mara knew better. She turned the clipping over. On the back was a handwritten sentence. Daniel didn't kill Anna alone. Mara's blood ran cold. She looked toward the doorway. A shadow stood there. A man. Tall. Older now. Watching her. Mara stepped backward. Samuel. The man smiled. I wondered when you'd remember me. Mara did not scream. Somewhere inside her, she had been waiting for this moment for 23 years. Samuel entered the room. He looked nothing like the missing boy in the photograph. But his eyes were the same. You survived, Mara said. So did you. Why did you disappear? Because Daniel told me I would be next. You knew about the murder. I helped him. Mara stared at him. Samuel looked at the floor. Anna wasn't supposed to die. What happened? Daniel wanted to frighten her. He wanted her to sign papers. He pushed her. And you. I pulled her out. Mara stopped breathing. You saved her. Samuel nodded. She was alive. Mara felt the room tilt. What? Your mother survived the fall. Then where is she? Samuel looked at her. That is the question I've spent 23 years trying to answer. He handed Mara an envelope. Inside was a photograph. Anna. Alive. Older. Standing outside a small house beside the sea. On the back was an address. Mara looked at Samuel. Where did you get this? Daniel received it 6 months before he died. Why didn't he tell me? Because he was still afraid. Of my mother. Samuel shook his head. Of what she knew. Mara looked at the photograph again. A terrible possibility entered her mind. What did my mother know? Samuel's expression hardened. She knew who the keeper really was. Mara whispered. Daniel. No. Samuel looked toward the dark hallway. Daniel was only the man who kept the door locked. Then who was the keeper? Samuel didn't answer. Outside, somewhere beyond the trees, a car engine started. Mara looked through the window. A black car was waiting at the end of the road. The same car she had seen on the first night. Samuel's face went pale. They found us. Who? He took the photograph from her hand. Then he said, the people who have been keeping the secret. The car began moving toward the house. Mara suddenly understood Daniel's final warning. Do not trust anyone who tells you what happened here. The house had never been a prison for the dead. It had been a prison for the truth. And now the door was open. Mara took Samuel's hand. Together, they ran toward the back entrance. Behind them, the front door opened. Someone entered the house. A man's voice echoed through the hallway. Mara. She stopped. The voice was familiar. Impossible. Her mother's voice. Don't run, darling. Mara turned. And for the first time in 23 years, she heard the voice she had spent her childhood trying to remember. Her mother was alive, but she was not alone. Beside her stood a tall man in a dark coat. His face was hidden in shadow. The keeper had finally come home. End.